Welcome to the KOBN Podcast. I'm David Flores, Old Boy, class of 1993. The KOBN Podcast is where we keep the Kemper legacy alive and well by sharing our memories and our stories. Today our guest is Old Boy Woody Woodward. He attended Kemper from 1963 to 1967. Woody, it's great to have you on the podcast. Tell us a little backstory on you, who you are, and where you've been since your time at Kemper.
When I left Kemper, I went to the University of Arkansas, graduated in 70 with a master's degree in education and stuck around with a bachelor's degree. And then in 71, I got a master's degree. Married, child, moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, went to work for the City of Tulsa Park and Recreation Department. My master's degree is in public recreation. I didn't enjoy it like I thought I would. Ended up within 3 years, getting into the construction business. And I'd always had summer jobs in the construction business. So that's been my career for about 45 years. Started a carpentry company. It got rather large. Did some work out of state, and ended up moving to Florida in 1988. Got my general contractor's license down there and operated the business in Florida for 28 years, I guess. My parents, Arkansas is my home state. My parents had a little piece of property, and one day my wife said, when we retire, I'd like to move there. So we're here. And I hunt deer out my bathroom window. I don't hunt deer. I look at them and I shoot them when I can.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Arkansas is some pretty country. So Woody, one of the things we want to do with the KOBN podcast is document and put down in a digital format the stories of our times at Kemper. One of the questions I wanted to ask you is what do you remember from your first day at Kemper? What was going through your mind, on that day?
To some degree, I do, yes. Obviously, we went through matriculation. Uniforms, supplies, all that sort of thing. I was excited. I had spent a great deal of time in Boy Scouts, and not that the Scouts and the military are related to each other, but I had been independent on many occasions, and that was not something that bothered me. I was actually excited, and I was looking forward to my parents leaving. Hindsight makes me wonder if that was a good decision or not, because then you become a new cadet, and the harassment that was associated with being a new cadet. We got into the rooms and roommate and immediately went into the military school regime, making beds and how to fold the bed, how to fold your laundry, your clothes, and how to hang stuff, and your hangers are 2 inches apart, 2 fingers, whatever it was. Anyway, and started that day. And I guess I think we had 2 days or 3 days before the old boys came in, and then that's when it got real exciting.
So were you at Kemper from your freshman to your senior year?
No, I was there from the 10th grade through my first year of college.
Okay, all right. So, when did you start to think about Kemper and the role it played in your life? When did Kemper become sort of a more indelible part of your life? Was there a specific time or, any time you can think of that happened?
My third year there, which was my senior year in high school, was the year that I developed and matured to however mature that I have gotten, and really began to enjoy Kemper that year. Had some responsibility in the Corps. Had survived 2 years. Made some friends, made some not friends, I suppose, as well. And things fell together for me. I hadn't played football in a couple of years, but I ended up getting on the football team that year. And Kemper's athletic teams were not very successful while I was there from that standpoint. But the camaraderie. The only bad part about playing football was getting off the football field in the afternoon and getting to third mess formation, possibly in the correct uniform. Since the weather changes during the day, and I might have gone to practice in short sleeves and we're in long sleeves, but other than that, and then I started out that year as platoon sergeant, 1st Platoon Bravo Company. Mm-hmm. About mid-semester, sometime in the fall, I became 1st Sergeant of Bravo Company, and then sometime after the first of the year, I became Sergeant Major of the Corps. The 1 battalion, that was the last year as I was there for the single battalion. Mm-hmm. Staff was on the top floor of A barracks, above the band on the south side. Okay. We had a single set of stairs that were very steep to get to the top, and spent the remainder of the year up there. My room didn't have a window in it. And you didn't want to use it for a fire escape because it was a long ways down.
Well, I'll tell you what, I bet you with those old radiator furnaces at Kemper, man, that made it for some hot winter days. Yeah, man, I can imagine. You couldn't crack a window.
But I enjoyed the year. I want to think that was the first year that the Ranger platoon was started, and Corps Commander was Ed Ridgely, and I was part of the Ranger platoon, and that was a lot of fun. Again, more camaraderie. We did things that the Corps didn't do. I learned how to rappel. We did bayonet training. I know at the GI inspection in the spring, 3 of us, probably more, 2 of us escorted a cot down the side of the gymnasium building, rappelling it down. We were recovering a wounded soldier, and I have seen pictures of that. I think my friend John Vaughn has some pictures. He sent me a picture of that. I believe that his dad took while that was going on.
That kind of segues into my next question. One question I think every young man tends to ask himself when they're surveying the landscape of their life around that age, any time between the age of maybe 13 and 25, is do I have what it takes to be a man? To man up to the call that's before me, and it might be with something that you did with the Ranger group there at Kemper, but do you remember a time there where you felt like you answered that question for yourself?
Again, I think that took place my senior year of high school. That was the kind of a year I blossomed. I gained a tremendous amount of confidence, and all that came basically from Kemper, came from the structure. The presence, there were so many fine people, cadre, teachers, mm-hmm. to look up to, and then there were other cadets that were successful and had great military bearing. They were leaders. They studied hard. They worked hard. They carried themselves well, and to look up to those people, even though they might be your same age. Right. But I just enjoyed that immensely.
So that kind of coming of age there at Kemper.
Yeah. And then all of those things carried through life. A positive attitude. I have always felt that I could solve problems as they arose in business.
Yes, sir.
And that became the confidence that I picked up at Kemper. There's a way to get anything done. You just got to apply yourself. You can't, nothing happens if you give up. So you and I'm in business as a carpentry contractor. I believed in this lead, follow, get out of the way. I didn't care if people made mistakes. I just cared that they learned something. And I think that's a real important. Mistakes are not as bad as you might think they are. It's if you gain something from it, and we, as a kid, we made a lot of mistakes and did a lot of stupid things. We were still just young teenagers, and but if you learn from those things and you better your life, I think the impact of the Standard of Honor, going through that ceremony, the solemnness of that, and the commitment that you made, and then we all fall short of anything, and I don't have the words of the Standard of Honor memorized. I don't have them written down anywhere, but I remember a little bit of it. And if you live a fair, reasonable life, there are rules, and you do well. You may not always win, but you can always be pleased with yourself that you put forth the proper effort.
Right, I think that's something for a lot of us, in that ceremony with the signing of the Standard of Honor. It was a moment where we realized that, we're putting our name to something, and I realize, like you said, we all fall short, but it is that practice. And yes, for sure, we're going to make mistakes, but I think what the Standard of Honor did was placing us that ability to see things for what they are, and to try and process through circumstances and think about, the decisions we're going to make, knowing that we always had to strive to do the right thing. And in the end, what the Standard of Honor did was help us realize that we were bound by doing the right thing. And I think through the years, that's one of the things that Kemper did really well, was that it helped instill that standard in each of us. One of the things, Woody, that I liked most about Kemper was there was this sort of a esprit de corps that just kind of existed there. It kind of happened through serendipity, in the fact that, so much of what we did was led by cadets, and it often, would just kind of out of circumstance, we would find ourselves in situations where, we were doing things together as a unit, and that esprit de corps would just surface in a powerful moment.
I always enjoyed those formal parades on Sunday afternoon. And again, going back to my senior year when I was on staff, battalion staff would form up at a certain location on the southwest corner of D Barracks, and then the band and the battalion would go down the north road on the parade ground, and standing there in staff and watching the Corps form up on that parade ground. Yeah. That and then staff would go into their position to start the proceedings. But that was significant to me, that here's this group of over 500 cadets in step, one goal, one process, a whole bunch of individuals, and that we moved as a unit. And that was, I think that showed the esprit de corps. That was a symbol of the esprit de corps. Supporting each other. I mean, we were all in competition, but we always supported each other as well.
Yes, I totally agree. I think there was something about, the marching, about when all of us would get together and march in step succinctly, all moving in the same direction with a very simple directive of keeping step and moving together in unison. I think there was something powerful that happened there, and it's what we did as cadets, definitely, for sure. So, Woody, did you have anyone in particular, maybe a TAC officer or someone on staff or cadre that perhaps mentored you specifically?
I don't know if I was actually mentored or not, but Major Timberlake, who was a commandant at that time, was a major influence on my life. He stood straighter than anybody I've ever seen stand up. His attitude was positive. He was not he was flamboyant, but he wasn't exasperating. He just didn't flaunt himself, but he was an amazing man. His son, Ted Jr., went to school in the early 70s. When I moved to Southwest Florida, I'm watching the news one night and I see this guy that I recognize, and it's Major Timberlake. He had moved to the same area. He was on the school board in Lee County, Florida. I looked him up in the phone book and called him, and you know, he knew everybody, and he remembered me, and he pointed out some things. It wasn't just like he was giving me a bunch of crap that he remembered. I mean, he made some comments about some stuff that I did. Regrettably, he knew the bad things and the good things as well, but it was it. And I was privileged to attend his funeral. He was a full bird colonel, and I was there with his three children, Ted, Bo, and Sally, and I got to hang out. And Ted and I worked together a little bit down there, so I knew him. But Colonel Timberlake was just an amazing man.
That's awesome. Well, that's awesome, especially that you got to spend some time with his family at his funeral. I think that's great. So moving on to the next question, you know, there was a lot of time. Sometimes where you had to pass some time, you know, weekends and such, time where you could reflect. So I was just wondering, did you maybe have a favorite pastime while you were there at Kemper?
I got to thinking about that, and I was busy all the time. I don't know what I was busy doing necessarily. As a new cadet, my free time was polishing brass and shoes, you know, and trying to hide from the old boys so I didn't have to shake their rugs and all that stuff. But there were always activities, clubs. There's things you could get involved with. I know I was on the military ball decorating committee one year, and we worked late nights getting the gym set up for the dance, but there was always something going on that kept you busy besides harassment. If you weren't busy, you were going to get harassed.
Yeah, and you really couldn't go into town without getting called a squirrel and being harassed by the town folk.
I know things changed over the decades after I was there. And the first reunion I was at, there was one of the young guys said, "And where'd you keep your car while you were there?" I'm going, "But we didn't have cars." We didn't have cars. I don't know how many people got kicked out for drinking, and I don't know if that got any better or not. I know a couple years after me, a Corps commander was busted for drinking, but I mean, I wasn't a saint by any means, but there were some things I didn't do, and then things that I didn't get caught doing either. So from that standpoint, but
yeah, I think we all got a touch of grace from that standpoint. I think so. You know, there was a lot of official cadet protocols, and of course there were some unofficial protocols.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories of the unofficial?
Well, the unofficial was you didn't rat on anybody. You may have a problem, but you didn't go anywhere with it. I mean, you stuck your chest out and dealt with what you had to deal with.
You know, there was a level of harassment or hazing or whatever you want to call it that I think took place between, you know, old boys and new cadets. But I think it had its purpose and its place, and it wasn't meant to break a person, but it was part of the formation process. You know, it wasn't ill-hearted. It was meant to build character, and I think it had a place, you know, there at Kemper for all of us, and I think we can all remember a time like that.
Something down. I'm gonna have to find it here. I thought it was. I don't come up with very many great things, and this may not be great either, but it's in the notes on my phone. Enduring physical hardships increases mental strength.
Yeah.
And I thought about that after you and I first visited, that those physical hardships the harassment, the hazing that went on. We had parties in the shower, but it's something about the mental capabilities increased from withstanding physical discomfort.
For sure, there were times where the hazing surpassed good fun, you could say, but it was definitely something for the individual to have to learn to cope with mentally, and to be able to move past it and decide if you're going to do something about it, or if you needed to do something about it, or if you needed to just endure that hardship just to get on through the next day. So definitely it was for many of us part of that character formation that we got there at Kemper.
We've all heard the famous quote from Winston Churchill: never, 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 however long that goes, quit, in reference to that. And then Henry Ford said, if you think you're right or if you think you're not, that's what's right. You can or you can't. You can be positive, you can be negative. It's all an attitude. And it's just, if you've got a good attitude, you can deal with things a lot better.
That's so true.
I love that line that Tom Hanks, the woman's baseball. There's no crying in baseball. It's this is the way it is. My first roommate didn't come back for the second year. I don't know if he was overly harassed or what the circumstances were. I've never kept up with him, or he hadn't kept up with me, either one. But he didn't make it back. But a lot of guys did come back, and that's the only way the Corps grows. But I don't know. The strong survive, the stupid survive. I don't know which it is, but
I think there's a little of both.
Yeah, you get stronger. I mean, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and a lot of activities at Kemper, away from academics. That we were only in class a few hours a day. We were cadets in the Corps 24/7. We didn't have a lot of free time because people get in trouble. The devil's handiwork, so we were busy. We went to town Saturday afternoons and Sunday afternoons. That was just about the extent of it. And again, without vehicles, we're all completely on foot. When I was there were no day students, no ladies. It was nothing but 500 and something kids that were dressed in the same uniform. So we were alike.
Yeah. We were talking about pastimes earlier, and it really was more about just kind of keeping busy and stuff. I went to Kemper on a football scholarship for the junior college, and part of that scholarship was a work component. So I worked in the library, and so I find myself in the library for anywhere between 3 to 4 hours a day, and putting up books. And what ends up happening is when you work in the library is you're around books all the time, and so you start to read them, and you learn some stuff, and so that was good for me.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there were any scholarships when I was there. No, everybody was was tuition paid. The greatest thing was when you got into advanced ROTC and you got that $50 a month check. And my parents cut my allowance off, which wasn't $50 either. So I had more money to spend as an advanced ROTC cadet than I did as just a normal cadet. But it was fun.
So my next question is, do you have an enduring bull ring memory where you had to spend some time on the bull ring, and what was the crime? Why'd you end up there?
I spent 1 hour walking the bull ring, my new boy year, and ironically, somewhere the University of Missouri or Missouri Historical Society has all of our records. They're in Columbia somewhere. You can go get those. And 2 years ago, I was with my friend John, and we went over to Columbia and we got them, and I don't know, for $10. But it was fun to go through all of your demerits. In our case, all of our demerits, our new boy year, were written down. I had a total of 70 for the year, if I remember right. I bring in all of our grades, comments from professors, comments from, this is your permanent record. This is the stuff that the FBI is going to get sooner or later. I bring this home, and my wife's looking at the demerits. She's just tickled. The late for class, no gig line not straight, shoes brass. Just whatever. But the late for class kind of got her. But you had to be there to do it. But sometime an old boy would keep you in his room being punished.
Yeah.
Something, and that bell would ring, and he said, "Don't be late for class." And you're hauling butt down the stairs and across the courtyard to get where you're going, and you walk in late, and there's 5 demerits. And it's just, but yes, you got tickled looking at it all, and I got tickled too, trying to remember. I never missed a class, but I missed a class. I don't have any idea.
So was your bull ring hour all for one infraction, or was it something over time?
It was, if you accumulated X number of demerits in a period, and I don't know if it was a month or a week or what the period was, but for every demerit over that limit, you spent an hour on and that was what I was on the bull ring for, was that. I don't know if there were other reasons, other forms of punishment. I'm sure there were. I remember seeing people walk for days. So I'm sure something besides demerits was involved. I just don't know. I don't recall.
So how about friendships? I think that's a big part of the Kemper experience. You're living around guys 24 hours a day. You end up making some good friends and end up putting some good stories together. You got any good stories and good friends you can remember?
Well, John Vaughn and I kind of paralleled each other, and John and I guess Facebook's a good thing. I wish I wasn't addicted to it, but I am. But that's how we got caught up, was through Facebook, Kemper activities, what's going on, and then I guess it was 4 years ago. Hey John, you want to go to the reunion? And we've attended since then. And then I've had the privilege to meet younger guys such as yourself, and then a few guys that are older. Kenneth Burrows out of Vegas is, I guess Kenneth's 81. He was 10 years ahead of me, and then Glenn Harwell out of Denver was here this past year, and 2 years ago, I believe. I had met Glenn, and then a few other. But John and I, we went to Fort Sill to Army RT summer camp together, and he tells a story. He remembers more about this than I do, and I was the victim or the object. But we went to a movie somewhere, and I had on shoes but no socks, and the guy at the movie says, you got to have socks or something like this. So we had to go to a little department store and buy a pair of socks for me to go to the show. And
there's all kinds of stuff like that happens.
Yeah, and I remember I had to buy a shirt one time. It didn't have one large enough, had one really big.
Yeah.
Paisley is all I can remember about this shirt. And, we're talking 50 years ago, so or 50, 60 years ago. Anyway, but we had experiences at summer camp, and we remember some of those, and then marching through the city when we played Boonville High School at their stadium. We would, which is no longer their stadium. Like everything, they got a new high school, they got a new anyway. But we would march to there, and out on the football field, and then peel off to the bleachers. But and then every year we marched to the cemetery for celebration. For Kemper's anniversary or what his birthday. I don't know what it was, but we went every year, and we just some of the things we had classes together. We had military classes together. We were both first sergeants at the same time. I was in B and he was in D. And then some other guys that I haven't been able to keep up with. Steve Metzger, who went on to be Corps Commander 68,
Yeah.
69, I think. I'm trying to sit here. A guy named Kenny Tice was the first sergeant with us. He's in Tulsa. I lived in Tulsa and didn't even know it, and I've never kept up with him. But then there's Bill Parker and Steve Paxton. Those two guys I've got on Facebook with. They haven't been to any of the reunions. We'd love to see them, but reminisce. We went to, a group of us went to, got a weekend, I think it was. We went to Columbia and got a room and rented little bitty motorcycles and raised hell in Columbia just on these little motorcycles. And I remember it was wet. And John tells a story that he'd never ridden a motorcycle before. He didn't know where the brakes were, so he's using his feet. He's sliding, burning holes in his shoes, Anyway, but there's those kinds of experiences, and we live through it, fortunately.
So it's funny you mentioned the march over to Frederick Kemper's burial site. I got a funny story. So I went up to Kemper with an old boy from my hometown, Rennie, and we both played offensive line for the junior college football team. So anyway, we're all heading down to the burial site, and I end up pulling like traffic guard duty, and I'm waving traffic around, and somehow he ends up in the president's car, and the car comes by, and I'm waving traffic through, and I just see him peer out the window, the back window. He's laughing at me, and he flips me the bird. And so that's a good story I remember, on that day.
I was a special MP my second year, and all I remember specifically was that I got a second set of combat boots and had zippers put in them, and we had white laces, and they were box laced. It would take forever to tie those boots if you did. That's why the zippers got put in them. But a road guard thing and white gloves, directing traffic and all that.
Yeah.
When the Corps marched through town.
Well, Woody, it was really good chatting with you, really good catching up. And this is going to be one of our inaugural episodes. So I really want to thank you for giving us the time. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Appreciate
it, David. It's fun. Looking forward to seeing you back at a reunion.
For sure. All right.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you for joining us on the KOBN podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you. You can find us on the web at KemperOldBoyNetwork.com. Please be sure to register so we can keep you in the loop of all the latest events, episodes, and any KOBN news. If you have any questions, or if you have a comment or a story that you would like aired at the end of one of our podcasts, give us a call at area code 660-596-6362. I'm your host, David Flores. Thank you, and God bless you. And as always, stay non-quam, non-paratus.